Major funding for Marcia Adams' Christmas in the Heartland is provided by Marilat Industries, America's cabinet maker, committed to quality in a variety of kitchen and bath cabinetry styles. By Souder Woodworking, America's furniture craftsman. With more than 50 years' experience, Souder provides ready-to-assemble furniture for today's home and office. And by Maple Leaf Farms, a symbol for ducklings and frozen entrees, chef quality you can count on.
Hello, and welcome to Christmas in the Heartland. Christmas is one of my favorite holidays. It's during December days that a wondrous sort of good feeling descends on us. That good feeling reflects in our cooking, decorating, and the observance of our religious traditions that go on all across America. And we've intermixed our traditions by integrating ethnic and family customs into a holiday that's uniquely our own. Every family has its own way to celebrate Christmas, and we're going to visit a few of those families. One thing that I noticed about them was that two motifs reoccurred over and over. The apple, which has played a prominent role in American Christmas celebrations for decades, and the pattern of the hand, which has also been used since the dawn of time as a decorative symbol. Each family we visit used both the apple and the hand in their food and decorations. Now, isn't that a wonderful coincidence? You know, one thing that I love about what I do, that I'm able to share what I discover with lots of people. And I thought it was important to show how families celebrate this holiday according to their interests and traditions. The Christmas traditions for the Hippensteel family who live in the country revolves around the herbs they raise in their luxurious garden. Let's go visit them. As a gardener and a cook who uses fresh herbs, I've long known of Orris Hippensteel, who's an herbalist and historian. During the summer, her extensive herb and flower gardens are a real treat to see. She harvests and dries these beautiful plants during their growing season, and then many of them find their way into her stunning wreaths and decorations at Christmas. You're really going to like them. And in the winter, when the snow falls in the Heartland, a wondrous sort of tranquility descends on this pre-Civil War summer house. It's a peaceful, rustic setting. At holiday time, though, the place bustles with activity as Orris and her family prepare for their Christmas open house. You know how I feel about using indigenous, uncontrived materials. So I'm pleased to see that all of the greens, cones, and berries used in the decorations here are gathered from the surrounding countryside. I look forward to this visit every year.
Marcia, welcome to the summer house. This is indeed an honor.
Well, I think it's a privilege to be asked for brunch and to see your Christmas decorations that you've made for this lovely, lovely place. What's the history of the summer house?
Well, the summer house was built in the mid-1800s, this particular one. And we took 2.5 years to restore this building. And it was just a delight to do. I had a very supportive family, and initially when I bought it, it was a wonderful experience because a gentleman sold it to me thinking it was no good. And our contract, believe it or not, consisted of a handshake and a quarter. And then with inflation, it got much more. You can understand. But the whole purpose of the summer house, Marcia, was a place to actually work in the summer and not heat up your house. Now, in some places in the United States, they refer to these as summer kitchens. But here in north central Indiana, I've always heard of it as a summer house. And this room that you're in right here, where we're going to have brunch today, Marcia, will be the room in which they actually did all the canning and cooking and butchering. And the fireplace was a real treat, because when we opened this up, it was all bricked up, because they had, as the years progressed, put linoleum down in a big stove. And as what happened is this was all bricked up, and we opened it up, and the pot cranes were in here.
Exciting.
With a beehive
Exciting.
oven. And it was just like opening up a door to history. It was just a great experience.
And what is so lovely is that preserving is still going on here as you make your herbal jellies and jams and vinegars and so on. So you're really carrying on the tradition that started before the Civil War.
That was the whole motive.
I love it.
That was the whole motive.
I do want to see, of course, all the decorations, and of course this is one of your wreaths, I know, and these are all beautifully fresh things.
Well, thank you. I hope you'll enjoy your day.
This particular wreath is naturally subtle in its coloring and is generous in its proportions and material. You can see why I like her wreaths, can't you? This one is very colorful and includes such things as blue globe thistle, yarrow, statice, celosia, delphinium, baby's breath, little daisies, and even sedum. Isn't this a special tree? Oris raises over 200 varieties of herbs and flowers in her garden all summer long. And at Christmas time, she unveils her talents with these charming Christmas decorations. They're all made by hand. This is a Victorian Tussie Mussy, which was really carried in one's hand during Victorian period, but she has interpreted it as a Christmas decoration. And this Victorian hand here is done in white. The hand is a symbol that's been used for many, many years in America, long before Victorian times actually, because the early pioneered women did not have expensive, then, cookie cutters, and so they used their hand as a pattern for many things. So it shows up again and again in American history, decorative design. Also on the tree are clumps of dried flowers and herbs tucked in among the greens. This is a kissing ball of pink globe amaranth and is attached to a styrofoam ball with a glue gun and decorated with narrow rose ribbon. Here we see a hand-crocheted miniature lady's boot decorated with dried flowers and herbs. These crocheted ornaments are heavily starched to keep their form. She makes ballet slippers too. All of these ornaments are turn-of-the-century designs and are delightfully old-fashioned. One of the Hippensteel traditions is for Oris to design a Santa that is then carved by a local artisan and made in a limited edition. Santa Claus's likeness was first seen in America in 1800. At that time, he was a skinny fellow, but by 1872, his image had been fleshed out to become the portly fellow we know today. These designs are typical of the pre-Civil War period. Another special Santa that Oris has on display is wearing a white fleece robe, and his face is made of beeswax. The holly wreath on his head is really a nice touch. Other folk art and antiques include wooden Noah's Arks, and I was enchanted by this dear old teddy bear wearing a Teddy Roosevelt button, of course. Under the stairway to the herb drying loft is a goosefeather tree, sometimes called a Charlie Brown Christmas tree. They were originally imported to America, however, from Germany in the late 1800s. Many people like them because they show off ornaments nicely. And now it's time to think about brunch. Like most families, everyone gets involved at Christmas. And Oris's son, Carrie, who's also knowledgeable about herbs and antiques, likes to cook.
Feeds me.
It's most important, it feeds you. Now we're making corn stick muffins here, and it's a very old-fashioned recipe. And I understand that the corn stick muffin pan has been in your family for a long time.
Yes, this was my grandmother's.
The corn stick muffin
The iron piece here, and it is about turn of the century as far as it's dated, and it probably was also her. She either acquired it from her mother, or it's somewhere in the family.
One of the secrets, and I want to mention this, one of the secrets of good corn sticks is to preheat your oven to 475 degrees and then put the pan in the oven and let it heat for 10 minutes, because by the time you put the batter in it, then it almost begins baking right away, and you get that beautiful ridged look that you want in a good corn stick. Now you're adding approximately, what, a half a cup of milk, I suppose,
About half a cup.
to 2 cups of
Cornmeal.
cornmeal and flour combined. You need a little flour in this because cornmeal doesn't actually have any gluten of its own. Let's fill a couple of those heated corn stick molds. And because it's hot, it will start baking right away. And then you bake it for about 10 minutes in this 475 degree oven. To make the corn sticks, preheat the oven to 475 degrees. Grease 2 cornstick pans and place them in the oven to heat for 10 minutes. In a large bowl, combine 1/4 cups yellow cornmeal, 1/2 cup sifted flour, 2 teaspoons sugar, 2 teaspoons baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon sage, and 1/4 teaspoon pepper. In a small bowl, combine 1/4 cups buttermilk and 1/4 teaspoon baking soda. Stir into the dry ingredients, but don't overmix. Add 1 beaten egg and stir vigorously for 1 minute. Add 1/3 cup vegetable oil and just blend. Spoon the mixture into the heated pans and bake for 12 to 15 minutes. Makes 12 corn sticks. These corn sticks turned out perfectly. See these ridges here? They were formed because the pan was red hot when the batter was put in. That's very important. And the shortbread looks delicious. Now how are we going to get it out of the dish?
The pan is cooled, and we're going to wrap it a few times to loosen the bread, and then we're going to lightly, carefully pull it out.
And if we're really lucky, it stays intact,
Yes,
right?
and we can see the design that is embossed on the back of the bread. We'll lay it on this rack here and let it cool a little bit longer.
And here we have popovers. I hope I can break one open. Ooh, look at the steam coming out of there. These are perfectly done, Carrie. You did a great job on them. They're very similar to Yorkshire pudding or a cream puff batter, and then they're baked at a high temperature. I can hardly wait to have that for lunch. I want to show you how Oris decorates her brunch table for Christmas. The centerpiece is a fresh herb wreath, and she's going to show us how to make that. Actually, this will look good for several months. The napkin rings are grapevines, and then she's trimmed them with dried flowers and dried herbs. And the little place gifts are wrapped in plain white paper, a dull white paper actually. This would have been very similar to the kind of paper that would have been used in the 1840s when this cabin, or rather summer kitchen, was built. And she's tied it with homespun and more dried herbs. And behind me is a tree, rather sparsely decorated, again appropriate for the period, and tucked in among its branches are clumps of rose hips, which the whole Hippensteel family gathers all over this countryside and uses in a lot of their decorations. These little beeswax candles have been lit especially for us, just for a few minutes. I want to share some ideas with you about beverages. These drinks are being served at Christmas brunch, but really you could serve them any time of the year. And what makes them so really neat is that they are adaptations of very old recipes out of the 1840s. This yellow drink, for instance, is pineapple juice that has been mixed with sparkling cider. Sparkling cider was a favorite beverage during pioneer days and during the late 1800s and early 1900s. And the red drink is especially fascinating because it's raspberry shrub. And this dates back even earlier, into the 1700s, and it's a mixture of raspberry juice and white wine vinegar and white wine. And they used the vinegar because lemons were so expensive. And then you add a dollop of soda water, and it gives you the most delicious, refreshing drink you could imagine. I hope you'll try both of these drinks because they're unusual. They're pretty too. To make the pineapple spice cider, place 6 whole cloves and 1 heaping teaspoon anise seeds in 6-inch square piece of cheesecloth and tie it closed with kitchen cord. In a small saucepan, combine 1 cup of water and 1/3 cup granulated sugar and the spice bag. Simmer covered for 5 minutes. Discard the spice bag. In a 2-quart pitcher, combine 1 46-ounce can pineapple juice, 1/2 cup orange juice, 1 750 milliliter bottle of sparkling apple juice with a spiced syrup. Chill and serve over ice cubes. Makes 10 6-ounce servings. To make the raspberry shrub, puree 1 10-ounce package frozen raspberries thawed, or use 2 cups fresh, in a food processor. Strain into a saucepan. Add 1 cup sugar and cook over medium heat for 2 minutes. Stir in 1/4 cup white wine vinegar and 1 cup white wine or light rum. To serve, Pour 1/2 cup of the raspberry mixture over ice in a tall glass and fill to the top with club soda.
Marcia, today our menu is going to be shortbread, Canadian bacon, and sausage that, because it's Christmas, we've made into the shape of little bells.
Clever.
And
That looks like, I would say, curried eggs, and I see mushrooms in it too.
super, exactly.
And the apples have been cooked in maple syrup and honey with a touch of anise. That's a perfect brunch dessert.
The cabinet that it's sitting on is actually referred to as a Hoosier cabinet, but they were made all over the state. This particular one, Marcia, was made in Lebanon, Indiana, and it was so interesting because not until we scraped and cleaned off 2 layers of white paint inside and out did we know that these lovely glass doors were in it.
I've never seen glass doors on a Hoosier cabinet before.
Yes.
It's really a special piece. You know, it was such a utilitarian piece of furniture that people had in their kitchens as a baking center. I'm surprised they went out of fashion, but I suppose when they did built-in cupboards, they stopped making these things.
Right, but everyone just loves them, and I was so privileged to be able to have one. And the neat part about them is that you can just slide this back in and
It makes a great serving counter.
Yes.
Well, I can hardly wait to try some of this food.
Oh, I hope you'll enjoy it.
I will. Wasn't the summer house great fun? And the food was absolutely delicious. I'm going to show you how to make the baked eggs and mushroom dish. It's one of my favorites because it tastes so good, savory and creamy, and secondly, because you can make it ahead of time. We've sauteed together 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 cups of halved fresh mushrooms, 1 tablespoon finely chopped onion, and 2 tablespoons of finely chopped green pepper until the mushrooms start to brown, about 5 minutes. The liquid should be all cooked off. Then, in another pan, we have a roux of 3 tablespoons of butter and 3 tablespoons of flour, all prepared. Now cook that, stirring until the mixture bubbles up. That's very important because that indicates that the flour is cooked, the gluten has developed, and it will absorb the milk. Now, to the roux, I want you to add 1 1/2 cups of warm milk all at once and whisk it until smooth. And cook it until the mixture bubbles up in the center. Mix this in, and we'll use a whisk so we get every little bit of that flour integrated into the hot milk. Then, we're going to add sort of a secret ingredient, and I use it in a lot of soups and stocks and sauces like this. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of chicken stock powder. Now, I get this at my local grocery store, but you can also get it at restaurant supply places if you don't find it at your grocery. And it's really a flavor enhancer, and it just adds a depth of flavor to sauces like this. That's what I mentioned, soups. It also comes in a ham flavor and a beef flavor. It's a nice thing to have on your shelf, and a lot of restaurants use it too. Then, to this white sauce, we're going to add some more seasoning. We're going to add a tablespoon of parsley and 1/2 teaspoon of curry powder. You can add a little more if you like. And 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of white ground pepper. And whisk that in. This is bubbling up very, very nicely. And then to that mixture, we're going to add the mushroom mixture. And it's just going to be, as you can see, a fabulous addition. Now, you don't have to use this just for entertaining at Christmas brunches. This is really nice as a lunch dish, or it's nice for a Sunday evening supper. I especially like it just before Masterpiece Theater. This part can be made ahead a couple of days and refrigerated. Then, butter a shallow dish. We're using a 7 by 10 inch Pyrex here. And quarter 6 hard-cooked eggs, arranging them in the dish, yolk side up. And then, over the top, pour this combined mushroom and white sauce that's been made, if you like, as I mentioned, a couple of days in advance. And arrange it so everybody gets some of these good mushrooms. That's important. And spread that out evenly. And also, you can refrigerate it again for another day at this point. As much as you can get done ahead of time is very, very important, especially around the holidays when there's so many things happening. So you need to allow yourself all of the luxury of this pre-planning. And then over the top, Sprinkle 1/2 cup of buttered dark breadcrumbs. Now do not use rye bread for this because it's simply too strong in flavor. The rye overpowers the subtle flavor of the eggs. Use a dark wheat bread and butter that and slip it under the broiler, or you can fry the crumbs to give them a little extra flavor. Then bake this at 350 degrees for 30 or 40 minutes until the top is golden brown and bubbly. To serve, top it with 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley. The Hippensteels served this with bell-shaped sausage patties and crispy corn sticks. It was a wonderful, wonderful combination. I have a real treat for you today. Oris Hippensteel from the Summer House is here, and these are her signature wreaths. They're made of herbs and everlastings. Aren't they distinctive? They're puffy and colorful and lively. I adore them. And Oris is going to show us how to make a living herb wreath. And one thing that always has enchanted me about your wreaths is the base that you use. And explain that to me again.
Well, on the living wreaths, the interesting part about it is that a lot of times we think of everybody using grapevine, but we're going to use something that's much easier to find, and we're going to use willow.
Willow, fresh willow?
Fresh willow, if you can find it. You know, if you have a willow tree or a neighbor's, that's what you get. What you don't want is big pieces like this, because these big pieces, when you go to bend them, they're awfully hard, you see, and they don't work as well. Where if you have a small piece like this, look what can happen. You just take it and make it into a big ring and determine the size that you're going to want. If you want it bigger, you just loosen it up. If you want it smaller, just make it smaller. And just start by weaving the first piece in. And then the next pieces, you can do it 2 ways.
You're sort of just braiding this casually.
Yeah, you can either go like this, or you can take and start this way and braid it in and out like you would weave. And this is the way I prefer, is to just bring
Let's put it over here.
Okay,
yeah,
it's
we can
just
see it better.
okay, and just to bring it in and out. Now, when you do this, you see what's happening is that you're securing it all the way around.
Oh, yes.
And then take this little tail and just tuck that under.
how
And then the piece that sticks out, this is where I like to start.
So you're going to hold that with your hand full time.
That's exactly it. Now, if it's not right, just squish it till you get it right.
So that's the advantage of using the green willow. I
Right.
would call this almost a willow whip.
Yeah, right. Okay. And
Now what's the next step?
The next thing you do is get some paddle wire and to try to find it at
What did you call that?
I call this paddle wire.
Paddle
because it's
wire.
on a paddle,
All
and you
right.
see, get the kind that has a little notch here. Because Marcia, if you get the kind that just has a stick, it'll slide off and you'll get very aggravated.
Oh, yes, and it unwinds
Ah,
improperly, I know.
right.
Now, this is actually florist wire, is it not?
Yes,
All
right.
And if you get it at a craft shop.
Absolutely,
All right.
yes. And now, what we're doing here is, you see I have the wire in my right hand, and in my left hand I have the wreath. And I'm starting right here where I secured it. And I'm going to come around, and I'm going to make a knot like this. And then at this point, I'm going to begin. Now, I don't like this, so I cut things. My scissors are always dull, but that's typical. Okay. Now, what you're seeing over here is something we've
pretty.
already kind of completed. And I want to start on this one,
All
if I
right.
could, for you this morning. And I'm going to take pieces, and this is what we're using today.
What's the herb?
This is winter savory, and look at the flower blossoms.
Oh,
Aren't they gorgeous?
so nice,
And
so fragrant.
yes, if you have access to a greenhouse this time of year, you can get this. If not, and you notice I laid it on there. I cut the ends straight. I laid it on there, and I'm bringing around the first piece, and I'm securing it. Now I just continue doing this.
How often do you lay these on the
Well,
form?
I start at 10 o'clock on my, because I'm right-handed, this is most convenient for me. So I'm starting here, and I'm going to use lamb's ear. And lamb's ears are best used when you can get them fresh, or you have them.
That gray touch is perfect with the pink flowers,
Now
isn't it?
I want you to notice that here again I've left a space, and I'm bringing my wire down, and I'm going around it. Do it twice, but do it securely, because if you don't, what happens is you end up with the stuff actually drying, and once it's dried, then it gets loose, and you don't want that to happen.
In other words, this won't be as puffy when it dries.
That's right. The one that you're seeing right here is about a year old.
Oh, my word.
And this particular one, I brought it to show you so that I used everything in the garden. Okay, I just walked through the garden and picked this and this. This is oregano and lavender and so on. And all of these things were just simply used so that you could get an idea that you can do the same thing with anything. Now, when we did the one at the summer house for the table, you recall it was so cold that we went out and underneath the snow found what we needed. Now,
And that was thyme, as I recall.
thyme and sage, and we even used some leaves of winter savory, I believe, and things like that.
Well, now, another question, getting back to this puffy business. As it dries, it shrinks, is what I'm hearing.
Right, right.
Okay. Now, how could we finish this up maybe with some color? I see you have some pink flowers here.
Okay.
And what are they?
These are globe amaranth. Now, these are everlastings.
Everlastings.
Now, they're called everlastings because everybody loves to say, gee, aren't those pretty clover? But they're not. Feel that. It's just really...
No, I've never felt clover like that.
No, not like that. You're right. And so what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna take little pieces. Now you're gonna notice I have a bowl of water here.
Yes.
That's because if you don't and you glue something and you burn yourself, put it in fact, you should have ice cubes and stick it in there right away. Just use your glue gun.
Aren't those glue guns wonderful? I can't survive without a glue gun.
And just stick your pieces
Lovely.
wherever you wish. And as you stick them in there, there we go. I'm always scared of burning myself. Here we go.
That's a reasonable expectation when you're working with a glue gun.
Just take your pieces and just keep putting. I see you might want to put something here. And the neat part about it is when you're working with it fresh, if you don't like the way it looks, just kind of move it around. And when you hang it, you're going to hang it so that when the way it dries, everything will hang down. On this one here, you notice that this was the top and everything hangs down.
Well, I can see that these make very long-lasting and fragrant and colorful Christmas gifts, especially if you have the herbs growing in your yard or have access to them. Oris, thank you so much for being with us today. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Marcia. It's been delightful.
A tradition in many Christian homes is to place a creche or a nativity scene underneath the Christmas tree. In Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where there's a large Moravian community, this would be called a putz. That's spelled P-U-T-Z. Bethlehem was the site of the Continental Army's hospital during the Revolutionary War. The town is filled with history, as well as marvelous old buildings. Bethlehem is sometimes called the Christmas town, with its emphasis on the Advent star, its Christmas music, and the Moravian traditions. However, I was equally delighted with the ethnic ambience of the city. But at Christmas, the town is as one. The entire month of December revolves around the mingled traditions of the holidays. Let's visit two families in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania to see why, just why, this is such a very special place to be during this festive season. The Moravians first arrived here from what is now Czechoslovakia on Christmas Eve in 1741. And for the town's first 100 years, the settlement on the banks of the Lehigh River remained exclusively Moravian. In the 19th century, the community was open to others, and by the early 20th century, immigrants arrived from throughout Europe to work in the mills of Bethlehem steel. The town really has two distinct styles of architecture. Early Germanic stone buildings erected during the pre-Revolutionary War period, as well as fine Federalist structures. The architecture tells us a great deal about the people who have lived here. Now let's talk about Moravian traditions, and specifically the putz, which is a nativity scene. In Bethlehem, some families, such as Francis and Alice Knaus, devote a whole room to the putz, and it will take several weeks to create, using driftwood, live moss and pine, plus religious figures and animals collected over the years.
You know, in years gone by, everybody had a putz in their home, a Germanic decoration, because putz comes from the German word putzen, to decorate. In Europe, it's called a Bethlehem among the Moravians, but here we just simply call it a putz. And in those days, they used to go from house to house during the Christmas season till Twelfth Night and going putzing to see what everybody else built, because you know it was never shown until after the vigil service on Christmas Eve.
Today, it's still a custom for families in Bethlehem to go from house to house to see the putz their neighbors have lovingly created. During these visits, Moravian sweets and coffee and hot chocolate for the children are served as refreshments. And I want to show you some of these Moravian specialties. This house was built in 1819 in the Federal architectural style. Today, it's owned by Moravian College and is the residence of its president, Dr. Roger Martin, and his wife Susan, and their children.
Marcia, welcome to Bethlehem.
Thank you, Susan. This is a lovely place, but I must tell you I've enjoyed all the houses I've seen in Bethlehem.
Yes, there are some lovely homes.
The Martins live in a large, gracious house, and it reflects their busy lifestyle, which revolves around the college. For this holiday season, Susan has chosen tones from the oriental carpet to decorate the staircase instead of the usual red and green. She invited me into the kitchen where she was preparing some Moravian specialties for a party they were giving that evening.
Dough.
Notice the ginger cookies hanging in the window, cut in pear shapes. Here's the fruit motif I spoke of earlier.
Approximately half an inch apart.
Susan is finishing up a Moravian sugar cake, and I'll show you how to do it later.
Finish punching it.
The cake is actually a rich and delicate yeast bread, topped with butter, brown sugar, and cinnamon. It's out of this world. This is an ideal cake to serve on Christmas morning, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I also have here an original Moravian sugar cake pan, though it is round.
Oh, it's very handsome and very old, I can certainly tell that.
And there are some cookie cutters that I have.
Oh, how interesting. These are so special. These were considered, what should I say, real treasures by the people who had them during this period. And you can tell by the shape that they're very old because they no longer make cookie cutters with designs like this. These are really nice, Susan, really nice. You're lucky to have them.
I also have another baked goods that the Moravian made, a half moon cake that I'd like to show you how it's iced. As you notice, it's iced half in chocolate and half in an orange flavored icing. To ice the half moon cake, I put chocolate on one side, and then using this piece of cardboard, I'm able to put the orange flavored icing in a straight line on the other side.
For this Moravian-style cake presentation, you can use any basic yellow cake recipe, baked in two 12 by 9-inch sheet cake pans. Cut the cakes, then, into 3-inch rounds using a cookie cutter. Then cut the rounds in half. Frost as Susan demonstrated, half in orange butter frosting, half in chocolate. It's an attractive dessert for entertaining. And now it's about time for the party. I want you to see this very unusual china that the Martins use when they entertain. It's Moravian historical china and depicts the old buildings of Bethlehem. This is the pink set, and this is the blue set, which is further enhanced by the gold rim. It certainly adds panache and style to the Martins' entertaining and makes it very individually theirs. The dining room is just about ready for the guests, and Dr. Martin lights the candles. The table really looks smashing, and you could easily duplicate this in your own house. The cones in the centerpiece are styrofoam forms covered with nuts, cookies, fruits, and Moravian mints. The cones are arranged on a bed of lemon leaves. You need to use a hot glue gun for attaching the materials to the cones, and they can be made several days in advance. These Moravian mints are made by a women's fellowship of one of the Moravian churches, and they're made from an old Moravian recipe that was handed down from colonial Bethlehem. They're only made in the winter. Another Moravian specialty are the ginger thins, and there's an old saying about them that ginger thins should be so thin that it would take 12 of them to make a mouthful. These are sugar cookies, and they're marked either with the initials AP, or they are called eagle cookies and topped with an English walnut. The guests arrive and the party begins. Meanwhile, the Martin daughters, Katie and Emily, treat their friend to cookies and marvelous hot chocolate. The recipe is one of Thomas Jefferson's and is absolutely delicious. The drop leaf table was used by George Washington on one of his trips to Bethlehem. Decorations on the mantel and on the clock are purposefully kept simple, in keeping with the period of the architecture and Moravian simplicity. Music has always been part of Moravian life, and especially so at Christmas. If you're lucky enough to be in Bethlehem in December, one thing you must do is attend the Christmas Vesper service at the Central Moravian Church. As you approach the door, notice the handle. To me, it's like a piece of fine art. It was certainly made with reverence. Towards the end of the service, hundreds of lighted beeswax candles are brought in and distributed to the congregation. The many-pointed Advent star hanging over the altar is the symbol of Bethlehem in December. At night, during the holiday season, the town shimmers as the residents display white candles in every window, and many hang the large Advent star in their doorways. Other families in Bethlehem, who are not Moravian, celebrate in a somewhat different manner. For example, the Virgilios, who live in an 1845 Federalist house and operate it as a bed and breakfast, have traditions that are influenced by their mingled Irish, Russian, and Italian backgrounds. A special holiday treat for Susan and her little boy Calvin is making Christmas cookies together with some of his friends. It's an ideal way for young children to find out cooking is great fun. I'll talk more about the design of the cookies later on. Later in the day, Susan prepared a buffo dinner for the guests who are coming in to help trim the tree. The menu includes Italian stuffed beef tenderloin with porcini mushrooms and fresh rosemary, polenta stars, and polenta is the Italian version of cornmeal mush, with sun-dried tomatoes, and a Welsh quick bread, which Susan will tell us about. Suzanne, what are you making?
Well, Marcia, these are Welsh cakes, and they're similar to a scone, but rather than baking them in the oven, they're baked in an electric fry pan. And one of the spice ingredients is mace, which adds a wonderful flavor to them, and they also have currants in them.
Oh, they do look good. I can hardly wait to try them. And tell me about this gingerbread bowl. It's just adorable.
Well, it's not only adorable, but it's very good to eat. It's the recipe is a gingerbread cookie recipe, which has been rolled out and placed over a bowl. And you can get as decorative as you like by cutting out stars or bells or whatever along the side. And after you're through baking it and it's cooled, you can use it to fill your cookies, to fill it with cookies. And when you're through with the cookies, you can also eat the bowl.
Well, you've used so many nice things that are symbolic of the town, and it includes the wax ornaments on the tree. I've never seen so many different varieties.
Oh, well, thank you. Bethlehem is noted for many handmade crafts, and the wax ornaments would be one of those crafts. They're made by Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and they're made from beeswax, and each one is handmade. And the beeswax gives a wonderful aroma to the kitchen, and we get to enjoy it all through the Christmas season. And we've also added some apples to the tree and some hand-carved Moravian stars made out of wood. So it makes for a nice decoration in the corner there.
After dinner, the guests trim the tree while they sip an elegant milk punch named rum rousal, which dates back from colonial times. It's laced with honey and bourbon. Here's the recipe. 2 cups light rum, 1½ quarts milk, 3/4 cup honey, 1/2 cup bourbon. Combine all and serve hot or cold. makes 18 3-ounce servings. The party finishes triumphantly with a dramatic chocolate and whipped cream dessert served by Bob Virgilio. Right, it's served every Christmas.
Marcia, this is called zucotto, and this is a Florentine dish.
Oh, it looks beautiful. I can hardly wait to try it.
My relatives happen to be from Abruzia, but anyway, we stole this recipe
From Florence,
from Florence.
Isn't it pretty?
There we go.
It's filled with whipped cream and chocolate pieces and amaretto. Looks divine. I know I'm going to love it.
Zucotto.
It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. As the Virgilios and their guests completed the tree, a group of carolers came by and their song filled the room. It was a fitting end to a wonderful evening. We spent a week in Bethlehem, and I must tell you, it was a peak experience. During December, the town truly is the essence of Christmas. We came away with so many new ideas about Moravian food, as well as decorating. And of course, I was enchanted by those gingerbread bowls we saw at the Virgilios. I want to show you how to do them, because they really have a lot of charm and make ideal gifts. To make these bowls, begin with a very stiff gingerbread cookie recipe. Ours uses 8 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour and makes about 4 1 1/2 quart bowls. The first thing you do is to divide this dough into quarters and chill it overnight. Then you cover the outside of a 1 1/2 quart oven-proof glass bowl with a lipped edge like this with aluminum foil, and bring the foil over the edges to the inside. Then smooth this out very nicely, and then spray the whole thing very liberally with vegetable spray for obvious reasons. Then roll out 1/4 of the dough into a circle 1/4 inch thick. Now, I must tell you that all of us in the studio made this recipe several times, and it came out differently for all of us. That's because the dough stiffness varied a lot, because of humidity and because of the kind of flours we were using. But not to worry, it's not a problem. You can work with it. Now, I would advise you, however, to use animal fat, lard or butter, instead of margarine or oil in this recipe. Now, don't stretch the dough, but begin working up the sides like this and finish up the top last. And then with it, and tuck in that cookie business into the lip, and then with a knife, cut off a piece of the dough all around the bowl. Now, spend some time on that. And we have one here that indeed we did spend some time on. And I'm going to show it to you, because it really is going to be a honey. You can see what direction we're moving in, can't you? Now, we like to put a design around the edge of our bowl, and we used various things. We've used this little gingerbread boy. Isn't he cute? But since it was Bethlehem and the star is the symbol of their town, we're going to use a star to put the design in the edge of the bowl. Now, you want to have the design precisely done, so use a ruler and measure up 1 1/2 inches from the bottom. That's going to be the beginning of your design, and then it should be 2 inches apart from the other cutout. So let's get that star cut out, just like that. There we are. You can bake that star if you like. It's sort of like a donut hole. Isn't that attractive? Now, refrigerate the bowl for 1 hour. This firms up the dough and prevents slippage during baking. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Bake it on an ungreased sheet for 20 to 30 minutes or until it's lightly browned and firm to the touch. Allow it to cool completely, of course, before you take it off the bowl. And let me show you what we have. Isn't this exciting? This is what I love about cookery, are these things that turn out properly. Now, when it's cool, carefully lift the gingerbread bowl off the glass bowl. Wonderful. A little miracle. Store the shell uncovered in a dry place away from the humidity of the kitchen. Now I want to show you some bowls over here that we made earlier. Aren't they gorgeous? We like to fill them with assorted Christmas cookies. They do make charming gifts. These are stained glass cookies like the Virgilios were making. The stained glass part is made from crushed lollipops. Ribbons can be threaded then through the design of the bowl. These are really sturdy and you can make them well in advance. And look at this candelabra. It's typical of the crafts you'll find in Bethlehem. These are the same beeswax candles with the red tissue ruffs that are used during the Vesper candlelight service at the Central Moravian Church. Now let's talk about a Moravian food specialty, the recipe for famous Moravian sugar cake that Susan Martin was finishing up when we arrived at her house in Bethlehem. This coffee cake is one of the Moravians' classic recipes and is an outstanding yeast bread. To start, we begin by cooking 1 small potato, peeled and cubed, in 1 cup of water until it's very soft, about 20 minutes. You can see how nice and soft this is. And then cool this mixture to lukewarm and transfer 1/4 cup of the cooking liquid to a small bowl. Now this potato is going to give this a lot of flavor and texture, and it's one of the reasons that this sugar cake is so good. And to this, add 1 envelope of yeast and stir it or whisk it up well and set it aside for a while we do some more things. And we're going to now mash the potato thoroughly in the remaining cooking liquid until there are no lumps, but it should have some texture. Now I'm using an antique potato masher here, and that's very appropriate for this antique recipe. When we're all finished mashing, this should have the texture of cooked oatmeal, and indeed it does. And then transfer this to a 1 cup measure, because we need 1 cup of potato and water all together. And if we don't have quite enough, and we don't, we're going to add enough more water to make exactly 1 cup. There we are. Then transfer this to a mixer bowl with the yeast and get all of that yeast in there, because that's what's going to make this cake so beautifully puffy. And then add some more good things. We're going to add 1/3 cup of sugar, because remember, this is a sugar cake, and 1/3 cup melted butter, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. That's just a hint of nutmeg, but it makes this dough absolutely delicious. Then put this on your electric mixer and give it a quick mix. Then to this, beat in 1 cup of flour, because what we're going to make here is a sponge. And then beat that so it's thoroughly mixed. And I'm going to hurry through this step. One always sort of has to hurry through steps when they're doing yeast on a television set, as you can guess. There. Now what we have made here, as I mentioned to you, is a sponge. And we're going to cover this with a tea towel and let it rise in a warm place for 45 minutes or an hour until it's spongy. And I do mean spongy. I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. Now, what could be spongier than that? Now stir this down vigorously. This dough has 3 risings, so plan on spending the afternoon at home when you're going to make this bread, but absolutely it is worth it. Trust me, it's worth it. It's delicious. Now put this back on the mixer, and to this add gradually 2 to 2.5 cups more flour to make a soft dough. You don't want a stiff dough at all for this. This is supposed to be a lovely soft dough, and it handles beautifully. Now after it's completely mixed, and this is what it would look like after we got the 2.5 cups of flour in it, or 2 cups, depending on the flour and the humidity in your area, put it out on a floured surface. There, I got your attention, didn't I? And we're going to knead this for 4 minutes. Now you can do it by hand, which is terribly satisfying, like this, using the heel of your hand, or you can use a dough hook. Either way, you want to knead it for 4 minutes. And then place it in a very lavishly buttered bowl and turn it around in the bowl like that, so it is completely buttered on all of its outer sides, because that way you keep a crust from forming. Then cover it and let it rise for 45 minutes until it's doubled. I have one over here for you to show you. Yes, very nice. I feel somewhat like a magician going back and forth with these towels. If you can make this bread, it is a bit of magic, though. Easy. But punch this down vigorously, because what is happening here is that you are getting out the holes that really should not be in a good finished yeast bread. Now put this out again on the floured board, and what you're going to do next is cut it in half, because we're going to end up with 2 sugar cakes. And then cover that with a tea towel. I've got tea towels all over here, don't I, actually? Cover this with a tea towel and let it rest for 10 minutes. Then roll the dough halves out into 9 or 10-inch circles and place them in 9 or 10-inch pans that have been buttered and lined either with parchment paper or wax paper, and that should be buttered too. And pat out that dough thoroughly so it looks like this. And believe it or not, you cover them again and let them rise for 45 minutes. And they should be puffy, but not quite doubled. And then this is where the sugar cake part starts, and it's absolutely the best part of the whole cake. Now, this was what Susan was doing when we came into her house, remember? And this is how you do it. You use your thumb, and the old timers say that you can get more sugar and butter in the thumb hole than you can in another size finger hole. So you go into the sugar cake, and you make indentations at 1/2 inch intervals, and then you take 1/3 cup of this butter and cut it into cubes, and you put a cube in each hole. And then with this mixture of 1/2 cup of brown sugar and a teaspoon of cinnamon, you fill the holes more with that. And then if you have anything left over after you've all finished this up, you sprinkle it over the top. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. And then you bake this at 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. The cake should be golden brown, and the butter will bubble up in the center when it's all finished. Then cut it in wedges and be sure to serve it when it's warm. Now, in Bethlehem, hostesses at Christmas time would attach one of these very clever little candle clips to the dishes. Aren't they attractive? Christmas time is such great fun. It's so rich in multicultural foodways and traditions, as well as romantic folklore. And it all comes together in so many exciting ways through recipes and decorations. Let's look at some of the scrumptious foods and decorations that we made today. First, the delectable curried eggs and mushrooms. The texture of the mushrooms combined with the flavors of the green pepper and onion play off beautifully against the subtlety of the eggs. It's an altogether beguiling recipe. It's a very nice lunch or brunch dish to be served during the holiday. And Oris showed us how to make an herb wreath using a willow branch for the base, plus gorgeous fresh herbs attached. And then we traveled to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and found out about the famous Moravian sugar cake. It's tender, delicate, and topped with a mixture of butter, brown sugar, and cinnamon. Serve it with hot coffee. Then we recreated Susan Virgilio's fetching gingerbread bowls, which are made by placing a gingerbread cookie dough over an upside-down mixing bowl and baking it. We decorated them with various ribbons and filled them with stained glass cookies and fruit. All in all, we really accomplished a lot. I do hope you've seen some recipes and ideas you'd like to try in your own house and maybe even integrate into your own Christmas traditions. Happy holidays, and as a good, eat good.
Major funding for Marcia Adams' Christmas in the Heartland is provided by Marcia Industries, America's cabinet maker, committed to quality in a variety of kitchen and bath cabinetry styles. By Souder Woodworking, producers of ready-to-assemble furniture for the home and office, America's furniture craftsmen with more than a half-century of experience. And by Maple Leaf Farms, a symbol for ducklings and frozen entrees, chef quality you can count on.